Welcome to another top 5, guys. Feeling super tired today, but I want to be giving you guys the new best meta decks after the latest patch, so here we go. We're gonna go over 5 of the best decks, show you the mulligans, win rates, as well as some general tips so you guys know how to play with and against these top meta decks. And we're also gonna check out all of the other working archetypes so you can see what your favorite class is doing too. If you're serious about Hearthstone and like what I'm doing, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching and support me on Metafy groups. And you can also check out my new Metafy course. Now, let's check out the decks.
Prepared!
The first deck on the list, surprisingly from Diamond to Legend, is gonna be again Handbuff Pally, which seems to be doing best right now with a very big sample size too. This variant is not the Excavate variant anymore, seems like that has been way too slow for quite a while now. And here we also have some custom enforcers, so you can actually block some of the generated cards for some classes, which can really help. We're also running a single copy of Self-Seed Deckhand, as well as a single Leroy Jenkins, well, obviously it's a single. And there's also a single Razor Scale. Not even sure what they're trying to counter with this thing, like what are you facing on Diamond Legend that you want all of these tech cards there, but what do we know. Anyway, the rest of the deck looks pretty standard. You have your drone deconstructors, you can buff the mini, you have some nice healing with the help of Tigris plushie, Sandcastle seems to be a staple nowadays, and we also have Ziliax in here, which is the twin module plus the power module, so you can actually do some very quick turn 5 or turn 6 big Zilly like that, and that could be too much for many. Not gonna go into detail for this deck, it really doesn't need all that much attention. Matchup wise, here's what we're looking at, and Pirate Demon Hunter is gonna be 50-50, everything else pretty green, so that's pretty good. As for the mulligan, here's what it looks like. Going first, you want to be curving out decently well with Drone Deconstructor. Grim Street is not bad on 2. Ziliax could be a consideration, especially if you already have a good hand. Straight up the weapon is not bad, but you can also consider holding on the instrument tech. As you see, the win rate is not as high, but people definitely keep it a lot, so you still want to be keeping it. Musclotron is not bad. Audio Medic is okay. Gold Panther pretty good when going first. And yeah, basically try to be curving out decently well. As for on the coin, it's not much different, but here we can also see Therum is a lot more keepable. Sandcastle is also something you could coin out nice and quick. The weapon is still pretty good. And yeah, basically the same thing. Tigris plushie, depending on the matchup, could be a keep or not as well. For other good Pally decks, we can also see that Flood Pally is still doing nice and good. This is the list I showed you, close to 59%, 1400 games, so definitely pretty good. Tourist Pally is also pretty strong, especially in top legends, so you can also try that one. It's not as easy to climb with, but it's definitely pretty effective. And we can even see Highlander Paladin being above 50% win rate, which we haven't actually seen too much of. It's an interesting list, pretty expensive, but maybe it's actually fun, who knows. On the number 2 spot, we also have Pirate Demon Hunter. It has been quite the strong deck for quite a while now. This is the Hot Coals variant. I also showed you a variant that's running Zephyrus. That's actually pretty interesting, because you could be using it for extra burn damage when all else fails. But this one relies on a little bit more AoE, so you can win the board back and stuff like that. You're still having a couple of Self-Seed Captains in here instead of the Glides. And the rest is the standard pirate list. I do have a guide about this deck. I did do a coaching session with it recently, so definitely check those one out if you want to get a little bit of extra info for the deck itself. Let's see the updated stats here. As for matchups, Death Knights and Shamans are going to be strong against you, and so is Odin Warrior, which has actually been doing quite well on top 1 foul. We can also see Overkill Priest is not very fun, but all around you should be climbing nicely. Mulligan wise, going first, you're trying to curve out nice and good. Brain Masseuse is definitely one of the best things to play on turn 1. Holding on to Halzen is insanely good, especially if you have Sigil on 2. Dungeon Cliffside could be a good keep, but try to be curving into it. As you can see, the win rate is high, but you also only keep it when you already have a good hand, so only 17% times. Patches is great, the weapon is fine, Spirit is good. And if you don't have the Brain Masseuse, you can keep some of the other decent 1-drops like Treasure Distributor and Sock Puppet, but the other is probably not such a bright idea. For on the coin, we can see again you're trying to get the good 1-drop, the Sigil. Treasure Distributor is still quite high. Honestly, when going second, he's a bit trickier, but technically turn 1 Treasure into Brain Masseuse can also be a decent play. Location and Hosen are still great. Sock Puppet or Patches still good. Yeah, it's literally the same thing, isn't it? Like quite literally the same 10 cards at the top 10, just a little bit of different order, so mulligan accordingly. For other good Demon Hunter decks, we don't really have that much other things to talk about. No, it's literally just the Arana lists. Apparently there's also this other list that runs Sauna regular, what the hell? And that doesn't make too much sense if you ask me, so the best variant is the one I showed you right now. On the number 3 spot we have Razzler Death Knight, and this variant hasn't really changed all that much, a lot like the other two I already showed you. It's basically working quite nice for quite a while now, and this seems to be the best Death Knight list as well. We are running the double blue and one green list here, and that helps you get a couple of Horn of the Winters, which really help you Zerg out a lot earlier than you're supposed to. We also have a couple of Brittle Bone Buccaneers in here, so you can abuse that mainly for your Reska, but also in the early turns you can get doubled up Miracle Salesman. Dreadhound is pretty OP like that. Harbinger is pretty nice, thinning out the deck for you. And later on, like I said, it's about the Reska. We have a single Malted Magma as our fire spell, we have a couple of Corpsicles, a couple of Horns in terms of Frost. And we have Natural Talent, as well as a couple of Down with the Ships, which is a Shadow, this is Nature, and it could also give you something else, like Arcane and whatnot. We also run Hellia in here, which is going to be especially annoying with Down with the Ships. And we also have Marrow Manipulator for some slap damage, and also Razzle Dazzler, so you can go wide. The Primus can also help you suck on big things, but all around the deck is pretty standard stuff, so you should be aware of how to play with it by now. As you can see, Ram Druid is not going to be your friend, same with Dagger Rogue. Big Shaman is also a little bit too big for you, everything else pretty good though. Going first, we can see that Salesman is always going to keep going first and second, being the only one drop in your deck. Getting a quick Gorgon's Ormu is not bad, Buttons is pretty good. As you can see, Hellia is not that amazing of a keep. I guess nowadays you only keep her if you really have a good hand or you're expecting the opponent to be drawing tons. Horn of the Winter could be a good keep, but try to already have a good curve for it. Mining Casualty is pretty good on 2. I would not really hold on to Magma unless I'm against something like Demon Hunter, or I know it's a Flood Pally, but kinda hard to know that nowadays with all free Pallies being super popular. Dreadhound Handler pretty nice, and Harbinger can also be a keep. Honestly, Tempo Brittle Bone can also be pretty good, because a lot of opponents lose their shit when they see this on the board. As for on the coin, it's close to the same deal, but Reska is a lot higher here. I kinda don't believe that. Maybe against a warrior or something, so you can snatch their Zillia and whatnot, but it feels a little bit far-fetched. So you still want the Miracle, you want your minions early, you want the buttons. Razzler, I don't know, I guess a coined Razzler could be interesting, but I guess that can work against particular opponents. For other good Death Knight decks, this is the list I showed you, pretty good stats. We can also see that Highlander Death Knight is doing actually quite nice, 1000 games, 56%. Maybe I should do an updated video on that, that usually gets the clicks. We can also see plenty of other iterations of those. And some of these Razzlers are called Corpsicle Death Knights, but it's basically still a Razzler nonsense. We have a variant with a single Blood Rune as well with Reds of Despair, which can be pretty nice. But yeah, Death Knight is definitely doing quite well right now. You have several iterations to choose from. On the number 4 spot, we actually have this somewhat new Mech Rogue. I've seen this list in the past, tried it myself, didn't do all that well. But yeah, this is something like a Pain Mech Rogue. It's pretty interesting. It has things like Cursed Souvenir, like Party Fiend and whatnot. And we also have Velarok in here, so you can cheat out some extra stuff. And even Maestra is in here. Well, she's in here because she's the Warlock Taurus, so she enables you to get the Cursed Souvenir and whatnot. But yeah, the deck looks interesting. I haven't had great success with this one myself, so I can't really give you too much tips about it, but apparently it's actually doing quite well, as you're about to see at the end of this segment. It has quite a few mechs in here, with the drone, with the frequency, which helps you cycle a lot of Mimron spells like that. You have the Cursed Souvenir, so you can get damage nice and quick, and if you actually get Wind Fury out of the drone deconstructor and from the scrap heaps, that can go hella quick. Invento-Matic helps you get extra stuff from those magnetics. Bronze Gatekeeper is also pretty big. The Coppertail Snoop allows you to get coins a lot quicker. Spider helps you stealth and whatnot. And the Ziliax in here is actually the quick one, the one that deals 3 damage as well as doubles up. So again, a great Wind Fury target. It's kind of weird that we don't have the 5-mana summon an idiot at the end of your copy. At the end of your turn kind of deal, like, what was that even? Well, you get it, the 5-drop that summons a copy of the minion, but yeah, apparently it's a little bit too slow for the meta. And yeah, apparently the deck is doing quite well. As you can see, the only bad matchup would be Pain Warlock. You're great against everything else. As for the mulligan, here's what it goes When you're first, you want to be curving out with a Party Fiend or Frequency. Velorock apparently is not a bad keep, because you basically get to play Party Fiend and that activates Velorock straight up, which is kind of dumb. Draw Deconstructor on 1 ain't bad. If you're curving into Zilliax, that might be a keep. Coppertail Snoop can be pretty good if you're curving like, let's say, Frequency into Copper turn 2, that can be huge. And the rest you're probably gonna have to have a good reason to consider. As for on the coin, we can see Zilly becomes even better, because you can coin him out even as soon as turn 2. If you have Frequency on 1, you literally coin Zilly on 2, and that is kind of huge. Like, that thing is gonna be, what? It lands as a 5/7, so it becomes a 10/7 on turn 3, which is kind of insane. Imagine if the drone also gave you Wind Fury and something like that. Could be pretty huge, pretty quick. Mimron can also be great. Again, turn 1 Frequency into a turn 2 Mimron, maybe coin a 1-drop, that can be huge. So yeah, mulligan accordingly. Here's the list I'm showing you, 58%, 1300 games for the last 3 days, pretty popular right now, so definitely can't go wrong, but it's not the easiest deck to pick up. We can also see the Dagger Rogue is doing quite fine, and there is this Miracle, and there's also Miracle Rogue out there, but it's a pretty skill testing deck, so you gotta be really good to slap with this one. Wouldn't advise it for most. And on the last spot, again, we have Pain Warlock still doing quite nice. It's a super quick, super easy deck to be climbing with. You basically win or lose by turn 4 or 5, so climbing really happens fast with this one, as long as you know how to play it, as long as you know how much damage you could afford to take against different opponents. You should be climbing in no time with this one. So definitely don't sleep on it. So again, check out my guides, coaching videos with it. You should be well on your way to Legend with this one in no time if you just take the time to learn the deck. Matchup wise, here's what we have. Updated stats. Razzler is going to be your worst matchup. We can also see for the last 30 days because it's a lot popular there. And if you're facing Elemental Mages, that's not going to be great. Hand Buff Pally is a little bit tricky. Big Shaman and Evolve Shaman as well. Dagger Rogue has a little bit too much damage for your liking. And Heal Priest and Token Hunter can also be problematic. As for the mulligan, going first and second, you're trying to be curving out with your good damaging early game. Blood Treant is also pretty nice. And if you have Party Fiend, you could even consider Zilliax straight up, because it can drop fairly quickly. Like, if you have 2 Party Fiends, that's literally a turn 2 Zilliax for 1 mana. Imprisoned Horror can be great if you have some of the damaging stuff already. And if you're curving out perfectly, you could even consider holding out the Molten Giant. And as for on the coin, the Imprisoned becomes even more keepable here. If you have plenty of damaging stuff, Molten Giant can be a consideration against 20% of the time, so you have to have a really good curve for it. Blood Treant still no-brainer. If you're curving into Infernal and if you feel the matchup warrants it, you could also keep that one, but it's pretty much close to the same deal. Other working Warlocks right now would be plenty of Pain Warlocks at the top, but also Insanity Warlock is still nice and good. We can also see the Freeze Insanity somewhere. Can't actually pinpoint it right now, but I have been facing that here and there too. Yeah, apparently it's not doing as good as this one, so there's that, but it's definitely an option. For the classes we haven't mentioned, starting off with Druid, we have Highlander Druids at the top, several different iterations. We can also see straight up Dragon Druid with Puppet Master Dorian and whatnot. There's also Dungar Druid doing fine. And there are still some other OTK Druids out there, like the Concierge Druid, like the Aulonius Druid, but they're just not as good. Or at least the skill cap for those one is a lot higher, more like it. With Hunters, wow, Highlander Hunter is actually back at the top for the list, for the class. Spell Token Hunter is definitely pretty good as well. Secret Hunter is up there. And that's about it, basically. For mages, what the hell did Elemental Mage do here, son? Like, very small sample size, but very high win rate, so there's that. We can also see Big Spell Mage doing quite fine. This one is the list with the Orb. Other iterations of Big Spell Mage without the Orb are still doing fine, but that's about it for the working mages. With Priests, honestly, Overkill Priest is still absolutely amazing in top 1000. You really gotta be good with the deck. It's like not very easy to really get into it, but once you do, you should be climbing with these. The Zarimi Priest is also still up there, but just a fraction of what it used to be, apparently. And that's about it for the Priest class nowadays. Shaman honestly could have made it into this top 5. Evolve Shaman is the best list. We saw this Pirate Shaman in the last top 5 as well, but the sample size is a little bit too small for 3 days, so can't really recommend it like that. Rainbow Shaman is doing great. Big Shaman is still quite nice. Elemental Shaman is actually doing well as well. Highlander Shaman is up there, like plenty of different lists of Shaman right now. You have plenty to choose from here. There's even a super OP Incendious Shaman straight up, which can really literally kill you as soon as turn 5 or 6, but it's a very high skill cap and also quite the high rolly deck, so I'm not even sure if it's that good. And lastly we have Warrior as per usual. Dummy Warrior does best from Diamond to Legend. Odin Warrior is also pretty good, and it's actually the best deck in top 1000 Legend, which is kind of interesting. Like, here's the stats, small sample size, but then again, what isn't in top 1000? The highest sample size is 470, so not that different. So yeah, even with Warrior, you have something to play with right now. Highlander Warrior, not as amazing as it used to be. Probably still possible to climb with it, but it's just a bit too slow nowadays, huh? So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the new Hearthstone meta. If you found the video helpful and enjoy what I'm doing, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to get hired for some Hearthstone coaching and support me on MetaFi groups, and check out my Hearthstone Trading Masterclass course. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.